back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate.
And hello to all my South Shore neighbors. You are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. My name is Melissa Wallace, and I am joined via Zoom by the one and only Sharon McNamara.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Your view is amazing.
Oh, yes, it's beautiful. We are here in Edgartown and celebrating a little bit of two things. I guess our 31st anniversary sort of fell into this week, and it's Labor Day weekend. So we're taking full advantage of this last weekend. I will be doing open houses every weekend from this point forward. This will probably be one of our last boating adventures for the season.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Are you going to take a minute during the show to talk about where you're going to be for the next foreseeable future on the weekend?
I'll mention it now. I'll mention it midstream and I'll mention it later. So
okay.
Really, really excited that we have a new subdivision that's going to be coming on. It's duplexes, townhouse style, and it's called Cushing Trails. And it's in Hanson, right off of Spring Street. And right now we have 2 buildings up, so that's 4 units. That we have 3 different styles of layouts. So we have the Whitman, the Hanson, and the Pembroke. So that makes sense, don't you think? Because it's in Hanson. So we have 2 bedrooms with 1-car garage. We have 3 bedroom. We only have a few of the 3 bedroom with a 1-car garage. So then from there, we'll have 2 bedrooms with an office and a 2-car garage. So those will be really nice. Yeah. Starting at $570 and going up to $630. And then of course people get to pick out, what they want for, all the fancy bells and whistles and things like that. So they can go higher if they want or stay right there if they want.
Yeah. And we've been doing a lot of sneak peeks over the past couple months, even probably like a year-ish, like even when it was just land. We've been doing a lot of sneak peeks. So be sure to follow Boston Connect Real Estate and McNamara Broker Team, which I feel like you guys have to change the name of your Instagram now.
We are. We're going to be working on that. Yeah, because now she is no longer Baker, and we have things. We have Sharon and Mary. We have McNamara. It's going to probably be something like McNamara and Horton. So probably just keep it simple that way. Yeah.
But for now, McNamara Broker Team, be sure to follow because we're getting all the sneak peeks, and then it's going to be live next week. Correct?
Yes. So we're going live, right? We're hoping, I was down there on Thursday and the landscapers were there. We just want it to look really pretty. So when people come for that first sneak peek of it, that they'll see, what the development will continue to look like. So we just have to do some construction things, and it's very raw right now still. So, it's still studs and things. So you have to go in and use your imagination. But I feel very confident that these are going to go quickly. So if you want any information.
Sorry. Even so, even though it's sort of really rough in there, we did a little tour for some of our agents, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and we got to go in, and they're huge. It's like the layout was so cool. It's very functional, and we were all in there being like, this place is huge. This is a great layout. It's big.
The bedrooms in particular, the bedrooms are big. We have a couple of the Hansons, and those are really, really big. So I think, no, not the Hansons. The Hansons are the 2-bedroom, 1-car garage, but the other Whitman, they're really, really big. Really big, 3 bedrooms, but the family room itself and family dining area, I think the square footage there is just roughly about 2,200 square feet. It's big, really big. Yeah, I'm really excited about this project because we've worked with Stonebridge Homes in the past, really good reputation. They've built hundreds and hundreds and probably thousands at this point of homes. And just a really good team to be working with and, marketing for. So we're really excited about it. If anyone has any questions, any of our listeners out there or our Facebook friends, feel free to just give me a buzz. I am the lead on this development. Mary is the lead on Cochise, which is our other development with the same builder. That is the 92-unit subdivision in West Bridgewater. Open house is there today as well. So 11 to 2, I think Kristen Howlett is there today. and 11 to 2, 11 to 3, 11 to 1, 2, 3,
11
11
to
to
3.
3.
Yeah.
Yep.
11 to 3.
So
Saturday and Sunday.
now feel free to give me a call, 781-294-4848. And yeah, I'm really, really excited about that development. We have Tim in studio with us today, right?
No, we have George.
Oh, that's probably why Tim didn't respond to me. I sent him a message.
Tim didn't respond back to you, Sharon?
No, I know.
It is
So,
Labor Day weekend,
yeah.
so he's probably up
Yeah.
somewhere having fun.
Tim's whooping it up for Labor Day weekend, but we have George in studio.
Yes, I wanted to say to Sharon, happy anniversary to you and your husband.
Well, thank you. 31 years. I remember when I was younger, in particular with Mark's parents, when they were alive, it was so interesting because they'd be like, "It's just another day. It's just another day. It's just another day." People are like, "What did you do? Where'd you go?" Like for our actual anniversary. And we were in Boston for a test that Mark was going through. And we would let's just go get pizza. So
It's
we
a
gave
milestone.
each other a card and that's it, so
Yeah.
31 years.
Well, you guys celebrate in so many different ways. So
Yeah.
you're like celebrating all throughout the year anyways. So
throughout the year, we very much celebrate each other and a love for each other for sure.
It's like having multiple birthdays.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to celebrate the birthdays anymore either. So, well, I want to celebrate them, but you know what I mean? I want the age to go
The opposite way. Yeah. I think Sharon might be frozen. But so today we due to something that recently happened within our team, we are going to be talking about COVID's impact on real estate. But I did get a text from our number one listener in Brockton, who was watching the news this morning. So she said, "Oh, Channel 5 News is doing a report on rental scams." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're not doing rental scams today." Because of course everybody knows it's my mother and she always listens every Saturday morning and Tuesday night. So I was like, "No, we're not doing rental scams." But then she just kept talking about it. And I was like, all right, well, maybe we should mention it a little bit. And George, you're my co-host right now because Sharon's gone. So
Actually, a good segue because we do have a caller who wants to chat with you guys. He actually wanted to talk to Sharon. This is Dick from Plymouth, but Sharon is out right now.
Yeah. Okay,
so
well, he can either talk to me or he can wait until
let's have him on because he's gonna do stuff later. So let's do that.
Hi, Dick. How are you?
Hi, Sharon. I was talking to Sharon a couple months ago, and this is Dick and Jane from Plymouth, and she was going to come to the house, and she's 3 weeks now. And she was gone. She's a little overdue. I'm just want to remind her.
Oh, she is.
I don't forget.
No, she is definitely going to come. I know if you were listening earlier, so she's in Edgartown right now celebrating her anniversary, but this is her last weekend on the boat because, she's going to be doing open houses. But when she comes back on, she lost connection. But when she comes back on, I will definitely remind her that she needs to go down to Plymouth. I know the both of us, we've already envisioned ourselves at your house by the water with your wife, like hanging out.
With your new time now, I'm just getting ready to go in the gym now, and I'll be out about time. You guys will be over, so I don't have I had a call early. I don't call.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I'm glad that our new time works better for you. I'm still getting used to the 8 a.m. I'm like half asleep, but this is I think our third week at 8, and it's fine. It's fine. I'll get used to it. But yeah. So enjoy your time in the gym though, and maybe in the next couple of weeks after our show, we'll come down and hang out with you guys.
Yeah, alrighty. Just don't forget.
No, I won't. I won't. And as soon as Sharon comes back on, I'll be saying, Dick from Plymouth called. Wants to know where we've been.
Thank you very much.
All right, Dick. Enjoy the rest of your day. So George.
Yes.
My mom texted me this morning and she was like, "Oh, Channel 5 News is doing a report on rental scams." And I'm like, okay, there's scams all the time, but she was very invested and she watched the whole thing. So I was like, all right, report back to us. Sharon and I are doing the show, but although we're not technically doing the show on rental scams, but I feel like we could sort of do a little spin on this. So for like, so my mom was saying that they were doing this report and they interviewed a couple because this couple had to put a sign in front of their home saying that their house was not for rent and that
Mhm.
some prospective renters have been scammed. So the whole point of like all these scams that are happening in these locations. So she said, what, Boston, Atlanta, New York,
Mhm.
a lot of places that are increasing or notorious for increasing their rent at a certain time.
Yeah.
And right now really, so like Boston, I see all over TikTok right now, it's like everybody's moving in for school, everyone's moving out. It's like the notorious day that they have, I forget what it's called, where
It's Austin Christmas.
yes, Austin Christmas, there you go, George.
Yeah. Well, I watch. I'm aware. Well, just like your mom, I watch Channel 5, and actually, if I would have heard about the scam segment, I would have saw the whole thing because
Yeah.
you have to be very aware of these stuff. You know, there. If you go on Facebook Marketplace, I have seen listings for condos and apartments
Yeah.
for 3-digit figures, which I don't know if that tracks these days because
Yeah.
there's super high inflation. But anyway,
Well, when we did our rental scam a couple, I don't know, months ago. So again, you can go to talkrealestateroundtable.com to listen to that past show. But if Sharon had a client at one point reach out to her and be like, oh no, here's how it went. Sharon had a client that reached out and said, hey, I want to see this rental. Any chance like you can get me in? And it just so happened to be one of Sharon's past clients. So she was like, wait a minute, why is she renting her condo? So she reached out to her client and said, hey, is everything okay? Like, saw that your rental. And the woman's like, I'm not renting, and they used all of Sharon's photos, everything. So it was a scam.
Oh
It
boy.
was a scam. But with this one today, according to the number one news reporter in Brockton, my mother, she's saying that like this couple had so many people like essentially being scammed from their house that they had to put a sign that said like, no, this is not for rent. Stop, like people are being scammed, stop it. But so the reason why a lot of people are being scammed right now when it comes to rentals is because they're notorious, like these areas are notorious for raising their rent at this time. So if a renter who is desperate and wants to get in before a rental increase, they're just going to jump at the opportunity. And these scammers are taking advantage of those people who are desperate and they're scamming them and taking their money. And that was the whole point of the thing. But Sharon, I think you're back, right?
Yeah.
I am. Was that so wild? Yeah, I think my Wi-Fi overheated and it just went kaput. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Are you using a laptop?
But it looks like you just like sort of just. I am using a laptop but I have a hotspot and it was in the sun, so I think it made it overheated.
Well,
there for a minute,
Dick from Plymouth called. Dick from Plymouth called and he wants to know why we haven't gone down to his house. Dick and Jane.
Well, Dick and Jane, yes, I want to go down actually. So maybe now that the summer is over and we've been actually just going through some health stuff in our family. So we've been trying to deal with that and it's all settled and behind us. So we're good. So am I. So Dick, I promise, believe me, I want to go. Melissa and I are going to sit there with some limoncello.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to wrap up the whole like scam part of it, and I feel like we saw a lot of it during COVID too. Don't you agree, Sharon? Like a lot of rental scams and stuff because there were people not going into work and they had to be in, certain spaces. And, it was, we always said like during COVID that like you didn't realize a lot of things about your house until you had to actually live in it, which was like during COVID and like see how it didn't function very well or like try to make some changes inside your house. But we saw a lot of like rental scam, like even just real estate scams in general during COVID time. So I feel like that can be incorporated into today's show. But anyways, to wrap up, what?
I love when you say things that prompt things in my head. You're so good at doing that for me when we're on here, because it's interesting. One of the things that you said, like people realized that there were a lot of things that they didn't like, particularly about their house, because now they're stuck in their house all the time. Right. So
yeah.
it ends up being one of those things where every little thing becomes a very big thing and you can't stop seeing it anymore. But it's interesting too, because would you sort of agree with me that that sort of was when we started having low inventory? I really feel like started during those COVID times.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like, I'll just bring myself back to like 2019, I guess, and I always say, like, I used to beg sellers like that can we do open houses, can we do, like, I remember being the person to have to call, like, especially when I first started working with you, being like, can we please do an open house this weekend? And it was because there was so much inventory, like everything wasn't just flying off the shelves. And you know, and we tell our agents, like, especially those who just got their license within the past couple of years, like, this is not the norm. And I know we hate to say norm. That's why I'm putting it in quotes. So if you're watching us on Facebook, putting it in quotes, it's not the norm, but it is the norm. Like, it's our norm now, but like, it will definitely change because it's always changing. You've been in the industry how many years? 20 something years?
21, I think. Yeah. Again, that's one of the things I'm losing count on as well.
Yeah. Well, at some point you just go like, yeah, I've been in the business for a long time, because you don't
For
want
a
to
very,
become one of
very
those
long
people that
time.
are like, I've been in the industry for 25 years. I know everything. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I know. I
Like,
think it's one thing when you're in the industry for a long time, but keeping up to current trends and all of that, I think is more important, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and I feel like
so-
that's goes for everything, because I just had a recent conversation with your husband, Mark, and I had asked, like, oh, is the doctor young? And not asking, like, is the doctor young so I can date him? I was asking, like, is he young? Does he still read medical journals? Does he still do this? Like, is he still active in whatever? I don't know anything about doctors, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I would think that's maybe a doctor who's been around doing the same thing for 40 years is sort of set in their ways.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that, but I feel like it's the same thing with real estate agents. So, and I said this the other day during our roundtable discussion, because Kristen Howlett and Trish Flynn, both full-time realtors here at Boston Connect Real Estate, the three of us had done a class with Charlie Burke last year to essentially renew our real estate license. But the room was filled, and it was all different, like, people who have been in the industry for 20 plus years, people who have been in the industry for a couple of years. And it was like, everybody does things a little bit differently. And he's like, this is the way to do it. Like this, but it's changed, like, you know, and it's so important for him to know, like, what it is, like, the guidelines that we have to abide by. And he's like, those of you who've been in the industry for 20 years, it's a little bit different now. Like,
yeah,
you know, so.
And that's why it's important that you have to keep on learning too. And I think when it comes in with him saying, this is the way that it has to be done, you definitely have to, there are laws and regulations that we have to abide by, and those never change. So we always have to be on top of things with that. But should we get a little bit into our topic at this point? I mean, I feel, you know, a little glitch or whatever. So today we're going to talk about, and I started to say I had COVID a couple of weeks ago. So Mark and I were in Boston, and we went to, this is where I'm assuming I got it. We went to the feast, the Fisherman's Feast in the North End, and it was packed. And oh my gosh, it was like probably the most fun I had all summer. And just dancing in the streets, the two of us, and just eating meatballs and what are those rice balls called? Arancini. Just you know what, it was just awesome. So I'm assuming because it was like close quarters and people touching people and whatever, perhaps that's where I caught COVID, right? And it's interesting because I'm not going to minimize COVID, and I'm not going to escalate COVID. So I'll let everybody know that. So don't tune away because I'm going to bring up COVID. But for me, again, this is for me, it was a very bad cold, not as bad as the flu. I had one day in particular that was like, oh, I can't get out of bed. My bones are aching and all that. But it sort of brought me back to, and again, I think it's very serious for people with underlying conditions. And, you know, sadly, I just found out that one of my past client actually passed away this week, and it was complications brought on by COVID. So it can be very serious. So I was wondering about this topic and bringing it up again, and just thinking, where were we when we were in the shutdown? Where will this bring us again? And will there be more shutdowns? But more importantly, how did we handle it before? How do we handle it now? Because people still need to buy and sell homes. People still want to buy and sell homes. So I thought that we could dive deep into this about a little bit about where we are. Do you think that there'll be another shutdown? How do you feel about that?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
So when I read your email, I was like, so I had seen on Facebook the other day, like, because all the kids went back to school, and somebody had posted on Facebook, because that's where everybody goes to argue. Somebody had posted like, oh, if they mandate your kids to have wear masks, are you still going to send them? And of course there's a million comments or whatever. And, but that took me off guard. I was like, oh, I kind of forgot about it. I feel like, again, I hate using the term normal, but I'm like, wait, I kind of forgot it. Forgot about it, even though I have PTSD or something, because it just lasted way too long. But I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot. And then you got COVID. Somebody that I was, I won't say who it is, but somebody else that we know got COVID. And they were concerned that I might get it because I was, and I'm like, nope, I feel fine, whatever, and just went on my merry way. But I was like, what is happening? What year is it? I'm like,
I know. Well, it was so funny because of the other person that we know that got it sent me a text and said, you gave me COVID. And I was like, I haven't seen you in about a month. And they were like, through text. We've been texting. And I was like, so I told Mark that, because we're just, she was just joking, obviously. But I told Mark that, and Mark's like, don't say that out loud, because then that will be a thing. You know what I mean? Did you know that you could get COVID through text?
Oh, come on. But yeah, I was like, wait, what year is it? Where,
I know.
I'm talking about it like it's the 1700s. What year is it? But it's no, it's not 2020, 21.
Yeah. And that's where I think that the controversy sort of comes in a little bit. You know what I mean? Yes, I do think that it can be serious for certain people, but I also think, why don't we get back to the point where I'm never going to sneeze on you, Melissa. I promise you that. I honestly,
I didn't sneeze on anybody beforehand.
That's what I mean. That's what I think,
I think when it comes, when it comes to real estate, a good impact that it had was it's almost and maybe this has to do with low inventory, but or at least I do, because I am a buyer in this market. I'm expecting a lot of people at a house that I go to if I'm going to an open house. So I definitely prefer to do private showings. I like to take my time. I like to be the only one there. But not everybody does private showings. Some people hold, and which drives me freaking bananas. People hold all showings until the open house, and I'm just like, why? But that's another show. But you just sort of now I feel like the expectation that you're going to be around a lot of people is always going to be in your head. And before that, I would never really put a lot of thought into it. I'm just like, oh, it's another open, going to an open house. But now I'm like, okay, I'm going to open house, and there's going to be a lot of people. Whether I change my behavior or I feel like people are more aware of where they are in the house and where giving personal space. And I feel like maybe we didn't do that beforehand. So I think that that's a good thing that happened.
Yeah, the positive part of it. Yeah. So, and that's the thing too, is I think that there were definitely a lot of things that we learned during that time. One was inventory was extremely low, and the reasons why inventory was low were a few things. One was people decided, hey, I don't need to right size. This 4-bedroom colonial is perfect size for me because my kids are home from college now and school, and they're in their bedrooms doing schoolwork. I'm working from home. My husband's working from home. Everybody's home working from home. So it was the thought of right sizing into something smaller because you're an empty nester or whatever definitely went out the window. People were like, no way, I am not getting myself stuck in a small little ranch when everybody is around me. So I think that, and that's when I started to say, I think that that's where our inventory sort of concern, like low inventory sort of started. People started not selling and people were home. Then it was interesting too, because I thought that there was a group of sellers. And I remember in particular, because I work with an older demographic of clients that, that are right sizing, and they are getting into something smaller, and maybe they're getting into like, a mobile home, community, or like a 55 plus development, moving it, doing an in-law situation. And I found with that demographic, we had to be very careful about being around them and who was coming into the house. You know what I mean? So then they opted not to really be selling because they were like, they didn't want to take the chances. And hey, we have to respect everybody's reasoning for everything, even though we're taking all precautions to make sure that they were safe. That to me was something that I was very, very passionate about. Was no matter how I felt about it, about COVID and the spread of it and the masks and the mandates and all that other stuff, no matter how I felt about it, I had to respect my clients' feelings about it as well. And my job was to protect them so they felt safe through the process, right? So I think that that's why we ended up with the low inventory. The other thing is, going back to talking about everybody working from home, this wasn't even in our agenda, but what happened to commercial real estate? I mean, that's another topic, I guess, for another day, but commercial real estate really took a hit on that. And I think a lot of companies then realized we don't need brick and mortar in order to run our business anymore. So thank God for technology. Could you imagine if this, happened, pandemic happened when we didn't have technology?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine kids were just out of school for 2 years, a year and a half, like not learning. But what have they done? They would have went to school, don't you think?
I don't know. I don't have children, but
I think they just would have went to school.
yeah, someone would have
I
had
don't
to teach them something. George, are you trying to say something to us?
No, I'm
Yeah.
disagreeing.
So
Okay.
yeah, perfect, right? I know.
Yeah,
Want to
I
give
had
the
a
number
thought, but
just in
now
case
it's gone.
anyone wants to?
Sure.
Sorry.
You can call George at the studio, 781-837-4900 if you want to join in on the discussion, or even just say hello. It's bright and
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. And we're live on Facebook too. Sharon, you keep going in and out a little bit. So if we lose you again, I might have to take it over. But yeah, I feel like another positive thing. So because I'm going to keep it on a positive note. Another positive thing that came out of it was like the sort of social media part of real estate, and so sort of digital marketing and just strategies that a lot of agents came up with, because not everybody could see a house in person. So there was a lot of virtual tours. There was a lot of floor plans were super big, doing professional photography so you can highlight the property in such a good light, because not everybody got to see the house a million times. Like sometimes you only saw it like once, but if you had seen those pictures and seen the floor plans, and now when I look at a house, I'm like, where's the floor plans? Where's your room dimensions? Where's your room descriptions? Like, why don't you have professional photography? Like now I'm sort of like stuck up, and I'm like, why didn't you do like this? Like, didn't you do like make the effort? And so, but I feel like the digital marketing part of it was a really good, like, I don't know, it just increased because people couldn't see the house a million times,
Yep.
Sometimes they only saw it for 5-10 minutes and had to put in an offer.
Well, and that was the thing too. And I think that that's one of the things that ended up happening. And remember, this is when they dropped the rates, right? So the mortgage rates went down. So that was sort of trying to incentivize people to get out and buy. And I don't think people actually thought this through. And I have said this on many, many mortgage syndicated type shows, that I think a mistake that was made was that rate of 2.5% at one point, that people were able to refinance. And I think that they should have made it that it was only for a purchase.
Yeah.
And that's why now we're in a situation where we have this lock-in effect. And I've talked to I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was, we were talking about, he's not particularly loves where he is right now. And he's like, but you know what? I would never leave because I have a 3% mortgage. Like I wouldn't be able to get what I have now and go somewhere else. So it doesn't make sense. So I think that that actually happened during COVID. And I think that was to incentivize people to get out there and sell. And all it did was incentivize people to refinance because they were staying in their houses. So that one sort of
I wonder
backfired,
where the statistic is for how many people refinanced during that time. I wonder if somebody knows that.
I know 70% of people right now in the United States have a mortgage rate percentage less than 4%. 70% of Americans right now who own a home have a rate that's less than 4%.
Oh, well, good for them.
And then again, we have our friends, right? Dick and Jane.
Mm-hmm.
That, they don't have a mortgage at all. And I think that, that's perfect. I mean, but that's another reason why would they, why
they
would
made their house very much like you made your house, like you don't want to leave. So why would you?
Mm-hmm.
You can buy investment properties.
Yeah,
but why would you leave your main house?
Certainly wouldn't do that.
Anything else that for like when it comes to marketing and stuff that you can think of?
Well, one of the things that I thought was good, like you were saying, is like with the virtual tours, we were able to do that. And I think that for an industry, we really did go into a time where we had to be creative, and we had to be able to let people, see these homes that were afraid, and they didn't want to go out. And it's interesting because I know that the Grady team recently, and I know Tracy did the show with you last week, Tracy Grady and Jim Grady, the Grady team, full-time real estate agents here at Boston Connect Real Estate. They had their listing up in Hanover recently on Broadway. And I went to that broker open house, and it was interesting because a woman came in, she was a real estate agent, and she was virtually like on FaceTime showing her client the house. So I feel because of what we had to do during COVID, it sort of has helped us even now, with technology and ways to use it, that if we have outside clients from other states or just not able to make it or whatever, maybe on vacation or whatever, that they are still able to get into homes and see the interior of homes. So I think that that's great. And I agree with you that the technology aspect of things certainly did help.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, like the client was out of state, but like for me, I would never buy a house based off of a video. Like I need to see it. I'm such a visual learner, anyways, that like I need to be engrossed in it. Like I need to go through a house and be like, okay, yeah, no, this is it. Because I don't remember. I know that it was under agreement with somebody. I can't remember if it was that person, and they ended up walking away. But I'm just like, no, I have to see it in person. I have to do it. But
well, I think that you have to feel it. You know what I mean? But I know I had a client one time. They sold, their big home in Pembroke, and they were snowbirding, and they wanted to get into the meadows in Pembroke. And one came on the market, and they were down in Florida, and that was before COVID. And I went through, and I did a video of the house just to send them. And I was just like, I know that this is the one, like, you're definitely going to do renovations, blah, blah, blah. And they bought it sight unseen. So it's interesting because we just had a sale in the meadows, and I wrote handwritten notes to everybody in there. And it was nice to write them a note just saying it's, so nice to see that they're still there. I hope they're still enjoying snowbirding.
Yeah. I want to talk about the long-term effects that it had on real estate. So something that I feel had a long-term effect on it is like from a buyer's perspective, and like still competing offers. So it's like everyone's still giving. Again, it's because we don't have a lot of inventory, but that's an effect. That's a long-term effect, like because of the interest rates and what happened during, the COVID time. But competing offers, sale prices for homes are increasing. Your buyers are putting in offers over asking, giving everything that they got, like I am,
Mhm.
and still being beat out because you have 30 other people that are competing with you. So I feel like that part is not going to change anytime soon.
Mhm. I agree with you. And I think that a big part of this too is I think one of the reasons why we do our show and make it a podcast and we're always, trying to give value, right? And teaching people this situation. And I think that the biggest fear that people have about putting their house on the market is, where will I go? I have no place to go. And we recently put a listing on the market on Patriot Way in Pembroke, which is Center Commons, and so fun to be in places where I was the original listing agent on that development. And I got a phone call the other day and I was talking to a woman, and this was an affordable unit, so we've gotten a lot of calls on it because I think the price was like 328 something. And so we've been getting a lot of calls on it. And I was talking to somebody, and she's of the age where she does want to right size. She actually listens to the show, she told me. And she said that, her concern is, where will I go? And that's the other thing too, is like we were talking about price point, and I was like, well, something like this affordable unit, it really doesn't come along that often. And a lot of people that were calling us just didn't qualify. So people were like, oh, this is great, the price on this unit is good, I'm going to sell my house and then buy that with cash. Well, it was like, well, you can't have an asset over $200,000, so that wasn't going to work. And people would, like, not just this person, but everybody that we were talking to. And it was like, well, if I sell my house, I don't have a mortgage now. I don't want a mortgage, but I don't want this big house. I don't want the responsibilities of the lawn and the snow and the blah, 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 the maintenance and all that. That's where we're stuck right now. And there has to be a way to get that ketchup out of the bottle, so to speak. So we do have more inventory. And I think, like with her and talking to her, I said, here's the thing is, she told me about a neighbor who had sold, and she's like, wow, I couldn't believe how much that she was getting for her house. She goes, but then she had no place to go and she got forced out of her house. So she had to go and rent someplace, and the rent was over like $2,500 a month. And I don't want that to happen to me. And I was like, there are ways to protect you. So as a seller, you can put in there that it's contingent upon the seller finding and securing suitable housing. And you don't have to leave until you find that house. And I think that buyers, I mean, Mel, you're in a position right now. If I had a house that I was going to put on the market that was in your price range, but I said, I want to wait, I have to find someplace, would you be willing to wait in order to get the house?
Yeah, of course I would.
Yeah. Right. So if you initially gave me 30 days to find a place, and after 30 days, I said, I didn't find any place. Do you want to extend this, or do you want to leave? Like, so it can work for the buyer and it can work for the seller. So as the buyer, Mel, all right, we've gone 30 days. You love this house. Are you going to give them another 30 days to potentially find something?
Yeah, but me being me, I would also look at the past 30 days and see that probably nothing else came on the market. So I'm in a good position to just be like, okay, I'll give you another 30 days. But also on the flip side of that is like, how fast can you close if you get something under agreement? Because I can close 2 weeks after, or I can close the day after. How fast can you close? That would be my question, because I'm not going to
very
wait
good
6
question.
months.
Well, and that's the other thing too, because one of the considerations for the buyer is my rate block and things like that, so like there are definitely considerations that we have to think about, but those are the things that we are thinking about. But I think if more sellers realize that they could do that, they would put their house on the market, which would open up the inventory. So, okay, so like somebody who has a 4-bedroom colonial, let's say, and they want to right size into something smaller. That person that's in something smaller wants to right size into something larger, right?
Yeah.
So if the 4-bedroom colonial seller says, okay, I'm going to make this contingent upon finding suitable housing, and the person in the smaller home says, all right, I'm going to make it contingent upon finding suitable housing. Oh, guess what? Oh, 2 houses are now on the market. And the person in the one can say, I want that colonial. And the other one can say, I want that ranch. Like, but we're not going to get to that point until people put their houses on the market. And
Yeah.
we can help you do that. So
I think getting back to the, would you do like 30-day extension, 30-day extension with the way that the rates are going? If I was to get a good rate, and again, I'm using Jasmine from Maritime Mortgage, like I would probably suggest even like a lease back. Like I would want to close and be like, I want to close. I have a good rate. Like I'll rent it to you. Like if we got to the point where like they're not finding anything, not finding anything, and also nothing's coming on the market in my price range, I'd be like, okay, here's the solution. How about we close on this? I buy this and I rent it back to you so you can find, because I'm not going to also lose out on the opportunity to purchase something because nothing else is coming on the market. You need to figure something out. Either you rent the house from me or you rent from somewhere else.
Yeah. And that's the thing though. But that might be the reason why the sellers are getting scared, right? But they may lose you as a buyer. I want to say from the seller's point of view, and again, I'm a very strong listing agent. I would say, hey, it looks like this buyer is really sort of giving you an ultimatum because they are concerned about their rate lock. You know, are there things that we can do to make sure that they feel secure and help them with that rate lock, or they want to do a lease back? I think that sellers might still be nervous about doing that lease back because they'd be like, all right, now I'm renting my own house. I don't have a mortgage as it is. Now I'm paying somebody else's mortgage to live in my own house. So why would I do that? I just want to let people know they don't have to. Then as the listing agent, I would just go to, Melissa's agent and say, hey, I'm sorry, my client is not willing to do that. So then the onus would be on Melissa to make that decision.
All right. Well, my client's not willing to wait for your client. So bye.
Yeah. So you would move on, right? So you could, but there are so many other buyers that are out there that the buyer, we could easily get another buyer and we would say, hey, we just want to, here's the situation. It's contingent upon seller finding suitable housing. We were under contract with another buyer for 60 days. Unfortunately, that buyer wasn't willing to or wasn't able to continue waiting. But I assure you, my client is looking. And that's the other thing too. I think it's really important as the listing agent to have a record of every single house that has come on the market and what my clients have looked at, the offers they've put in, maybe they've gotten bid out or things like that, just to give the buyer some security in knowing, hey, I am really trying to find a house.
Yeah.
But
I mean, as a buyer, if I was going to come in and be that second buyer, I would definitely want some sort of tangible evidence to know that like you are actually actively looking and not just being stubborn because the perfect thing didn't come on the market, especially if you've already been on the market for a couple months and the first buyer was like, all right, I'm out. Like, it's just been too long. How much more time do you need? Like if I was going to be the second buyer, I would definitely want at least have a conversation with the agent and be like, what's going on? Like, why haven't they found anything? And know that they are actively looking.
Yeah. Yeah. But would you feel secure though, if you came to me? Because again, this is about giving sellers the comfort of knowing, hey, I can put my house on the market and have this contingency. If you came to me and said, hey, Sharon, what is the story? And I said, you know what? They're not waiting for, this shiny gem that doesn't exist. They're just waiting for more people to put their house on the market. And the more people that we can tell, hey, make it contingent upon seller finding suitable housing. That way they will get more houses on the market and just a bunch of sellers trying to find houses themselves, because then they become the buyer, right? So they end up in a situation. And that's the other thing too. The tail on that could become very long because let's just keep the scenario here with us. My seller then finds the perfect house, but it's contingent upon them finding suitable housing. So it can get convoluted. And maybe that's the reason why people are like, I just don't even want to get involved. I'll just stay where I am. But I do want people to know that there is the option to put in there. It's contingent. You will never be homeless on my time. So I think that that's important to say, but we sort of went off, but I'm glad that we did do that because that is something that I've been wanting to sort of talk about a little bit because like I said, when I was talking to this woman recently, just this week, actually, she was not aware of that. She was just afraid that if she put her house on the market and it sold right away, which it would. And that's the other thing too. I also said the important thing about putting your house on the market, and you can do it with a contingency, is we could put it on the market for $400,000, but you could end up with 450. So now you actually know how much of a house you can afford to buy. So anyways, I just want to let our WATV listeners know, and to our podcast listeners and Facebook friends, you're listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. My name is Sharon McNamara. I am the broker owner and full-time realtor here at Boston Connect Real Estate, along with Melissa Wallace, who is also a full-time real estate agent looking for a house for herself. So she wants you to put a house on the market.
Yes. So please put your house on the market.
Yeah, she has one very important client, and it's herself. But Melissa is the director of operations here and agent relations. So, we have, her with me today. We are talking about COVID, and actually brought us back to, is this going to impact our inventory even more if things escalate? So if you have any insights or questions about this topic or any other topics, George is in studio, 781-837-4900. So feel free to call the studio and he will pipe you on through. Don't be
Definitely
shy.
call in.
Remember, yeah, we're the 8 o'clock. We're like the lead off show to McNamara on Money. So if you just tuned in and you hear our voice, don't be disappointed. Michael McNamara and his crew will be on after us. Their show now is live from 9 to 10 a.m. on Saturday mornings. So don't worry, they haven't left. They just gave us this 8 to 9 hour. So I can be doing open houses come next weekend.
Yes, you will be. I'm getting my nails done after this. So it's been working for me. Yeah, it's been working for me the past couple, although I am like half asleep for the first half of the show, but I'm here and that's what matters.
Yep.
Yeah, so we only have about 5 minutes left. So maybe wrapping up like the most important parts of this. And then we do have a couple open houses that we have to promote. But I think that, there was a huge shift in, so long-term effect, I'll wrap up that part, is like, there were a lot of people we saw leaving the city. Nobody wanted to be on top of each other. So we had a lot of people coming down here to the South Shore, which increased the sale price. And I think that that's going to be
Officially.
Yeah. That's going to be a long-term effect. And of course, inventory low, and, the increase in people working from home. So either they, moved to a house that worked for them. Floor plans, actually, I think we saw an increase in like, not so much the open floor plan anymore, because people realized that like it wasn't conducive to working from home. I think we're back to wanting to have like separate spaces. So it's, some people who had like a formal dining room that they never used, they turned into an office. Like it was, we're not really seeing a lot of the open floor plans anymore, or people really wanting them because they were living in the spaces that they owned. And they were like, okay, this doesn't really work for teaching my kids school. Like it doesn't really work for working from home. And so I think that was sort of a long-term.
Yep. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody was like, get out of my face.
Any other long-term effects that you feel like we're gonna feel?
Well,
for
I think
a long
one
time?
of the long-term effects, I think, well, it was sort of maybe a short term, but during COVID, during the shutdown, I think one of the things we did see is a lot of divorce happened after that. People realized they didn't really think that they were, when you don't see each other because you're always working and one's going one way and one's going the other way. We did see a lot of sort of divorce type situations that came up, which is sad, and hopefully we don't see that happen again. But again, I'm convinced I don't see us in a lockdown situation. I think that they will try to mandate masks and do all that again at some point. But I guess we already have been there, done that. So we know how to sort of control, making sure that everybody's safe and they feel safe in their environment if it is a concern of theirs.
Yeah. Also something I don't particularly think that we will, because next year is an election year, or it's an election year. So that always has an impact on real estate too. So I think that, anything that we do moving forward, or anything that's like regulated moving forward, would definitely have an impact with, that.
Mhm. Yeah. And I do think that these are the things that do really impact, and people don't maybe really think about it as much as we do because we're in real estate every day. And that is a really good point, is, how vulnerable do people feel in a situation like this when they're not sure what is going to happen, whether it be with COVID or an election year, that people tend to sort of like just settle in. So that is, again, and it's coming down to the inventory and a way to fix it. And I know people have said this to me, especially, why don't the builders build things that are, better priced and more? And it's because the regulations are so difficult to get a subdivision in, and how many units can you get on a lot and all of that. So I think that would be a good topic for us to have for a conversation. Maybe we can talk about new construction next Saturday. I think that that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Next Saturday, we'll talk about that. Tuesday, you want to talk about scams, or what do you want to do?
Nope. I have Kristen on. So we already have, I can't even think about it, but Kristen and I are hosting the show on Tuesday. So I know we already have a topic. We already have an agenda, but my brain is sort of mush, but we'll be promoting that too. So be sure to follow Boston Connect Real Estate, McNamara Broker Team, Kristen Howlett for Tuesday. And on social media. But we do have a couple open houses. So it looks like the Grady team are doing an open house today and tomorrow at their listing 282 King Street in Hanson from 11 to 1. That is on the market for $749,900. Again, 282 King Street in Hanson. The Grady team will be there from 11 to 1 today and tomorrow. And it looks like Cochise Estate is only doing today open house, not tomorrow. So that's in West Bridgewater from 11 to 3. Those are ranging from $649 to $899, correct?
Off of Scotland Street. Yep.
Yep. Perfect. Well, you enjoy the rest of your weekend, Sharon.
Thank you very much, and happy Labor Day to everybody. I hope that nobody has to do any heavy labor. So
Hopefully not.
thank you for
hopefully not. And
hopefully
George,
not.
it was great to have you on a Saturday.
As always, except for the 5 o'clock morning wake time for me. That's
Yeah.
how early afterwards.
That's tough. Yeah, that's tough. I don't blame you, but
You think
thanks
you
for
got it
joining.
bad for 8? I got it worse.
Yeah, that is true. I don't envy you. Well, thank you so much.
Have a great
everybody.
weekend,
Have a
everybody.
great weekend and enjoy hopefully a day off on Monday. You're listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. You can go to talkrealestateroundtable.com for any of our past shows and bostonconnect.com for our contact information. Bye, everyone.
Perfect. Stay tuned for McNamara on Money. They're up next. Bye, Mel.
Bye.